Era+Space+Need for Few+Military Marriage+Favorite Wife+Raising Children+Sweet pet, Xinran, who had billions of assets, woke up in the 1970s after sleeping for a while. I thought it was a simple journey, but I didn't expect it to be through books. Even if she wears a book, she is still a supporting actress. She had no choice but to move the small stool and eat melon seeds while watching the play. Just a man next to me is not willing. Wife, are you looking at me? I am more handsome than them. I have 8 abdominal muscles. Xinran glanced absent-mindedly, being careful not to let the dirt jump uncontrollably. What else would that cost? Get the certificate. Chapter 1. Traversing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xinran sat on the bed expressionless, staring blankly at the mottled wall in front of him. 3 days later, when she opened her eyes again, she saw this small house full of a sense of time. She just took a nap, how could she open her eyes and travel back to the 1970s? Although she doesn't have any relatives in modern times. But the big villa she just bought, her 9-figure savings, haven't come yet to enjoy. Is it just because the original owner, like her, is called Xinran? Ran. A somewhat worried voice came in through the old wooden door. Xinran sighed helplessly and stood up. Through the memory in the original owner's mind, she knew that standing outside the door was the original owner's mother. The wooden door opened, and Li's anxious face appeared in front of her. Mom. Xinran hesitated for a few seconds and let out a soft cry. Hey, come and eat quickly. Mom has cooked your favorite braised pork belly. Li's mother breathed a sigh of relief when she saw her daughter finally willing to speak up. Since she found out that she was going to the countryside, her little daughter has stopped eating or speaking, and remains silent all day long. These days have become even more strange. I keep myself indoors every day, either daydreaming or sleeping, which is really worrying. My daughter is finally willing to speak today, and she can let go of half of her heart. As if afraid of her daughter's remorse, Mother Li grabbed her hand and pushed her to the dining table. As soon as Xinran sat down, the bowl in front of him was filled with a piece of oily braised pork belly. In modern times, Xinran would not even look at the fat braised pork belly, but now, gulu, her stomach has already protested, clearly indicating that it wants to eat. And her mouth has started to secrete saliva. Xinran awkwardly covered her stomach and looked up at the person at the table. Li's father, Li Dehai, seemed to have not heard a sound and said with concern, "Eat quickly, your mother made it specifically for you." Xinran lowered his head in embarrassment, picked up the braised pork belly with chopsticks and put it into his mouth. It was unexpectedly delicious. She couldn't help but put some more pieces of braised pork belly in brown sauce, and ate with rice. She had always thought that these days she was dreaming and would be able to return to modern times when she woke up and opened her eyes, without eating much. After finishing his meal, Xinran put down his chopsticks and said what he had prepared. "I've figured it out, I will go to the countryside according to the notice. Don't worry." The 3 people at the dinner table, Li's father, Li's mother, and the elder sister of the original owner, Li Xinmei, turned their heads to look at her. Xinran sat on the stool, letting the 3 of them stare at her. She has already thought about it. She is currently in this body, and she cannot continue to imitate the original owner to live. The original owner was very angry because he didn't want to go to the countryside. Since she has already traveled through time, she must work hard to survive. Moreover, it has been 7 or 5 years now. The college entrance examination will resume in 2 more years. In 2 years, she can return to the city by taking the college entrance exam. No one will be surprised by any changes that may occur to her. As for not being able to get into university, it is impossible. In modern times, she can be admitted to key universities with high scores, let alone in her first year of resuming the college entrance examination. After a few seconds, Li Mu was the first to react and excitedly said, Okay, Mom will prepare more things for you, including clothes, food and meat coupons, and bring them to you. Li's father also sighed, "Ah, good child, when you get there, you need to write a letter to your family." Li's father paused for a while before weakly speaking, "It's not that Dad doesn't buy you a job, it's because there's really no one selling it." Sister Li Xinmei, who had been eating quietly, suddenly interjected, "If you get married, you can stay in the city." Li Xinran couldn't help but retort, "I'm only 18. Her flower bud is about to be extinguished before it blooms, who can bear it?" Li Xinmei gave her a glare, "What's wrong with 18? If you and I were like you, I wouldn't necessarily be suffering in any rural area now." Li Xinran learned from the original owner's memory that her sister did not go to the countryside after graduating from high school because she found a partner in a factory and arranged a job for her without getting married. Her older sister is also charming. Li Xinran carefully glanced at her sister, with big eyes and 2 long braids on her chest, which were indeed beautiful. But it's impossible for her to get married as early as 18. I'll go to the countryside instead. I want to contribute to the construction of our motherland. Li Xinmei rolled her big white eyes, "I'm not buying it after dinner." Li Xinran returned to her cabin. Inside the cabin, Li Xinran closed her eyes and felt her space. She will go to the countryside the day after tomorrow. She needs to be well prepared before going to the countryside. Li Xinran lifted his left bowl, where there was a red mole. As she reached this body, a wave of warmth emanated from the red mole. Li Xinran placed her right hand on the red mole, thinking about space in her mind. Sure enough, in the next moment, a large amount of supplies appeared before my eyes. Her space was discovered by chance during a trip to Yunnan, after buying a piece of sheep fat white jade. The space is about 5,000 square meters, and there is a clear spring inside, which is incredibly sweet. Drinking it for a long time can strengthen the body and improve physical fitness. But there is no magical effect of dead flesh and bones. The storage space contains various types of rice, flour, grains, oil, fruits, food, seasonal clothes, as well as miscellaneous items. Because it has a preservation effect, she is not worried about things going bad at all. In addition, there is a set of solar-powered kitchen utensils. She also planned a small orchard and planted some fruit trees, including cherries, apples, strawberries, and oranges. These are almost maturing. However, the time flow rate inside the space is the same as outside, which cannot accelerate the growth of plants. When she got this space, she thought the end of the world was coming and prepared a lot of food and drinks, but she didn't expect to travel back to the 1970s. Although much better than the apocalypse, it is still lacking in food and clothing. Now that it was confirmed that the space had crossed with her, Li Xinran breathed a complete sigh of relief. Then she turned her head to look at the original owner's small house. High school textbooks neatly arranged on the table, including Chinese and mathematics. Li Xinran casually took it over and opened it, taking a glance. In some places, he still took clear notes. With such a complete set of textbooks, she won't be able to win the college entrance examination in 2 years. Suddenly, with a loud crash, a piece of paper fell to the ground. Chapter 2. Going to the Black Market. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Xinran curiously picked it up and opened it to take a look. My heart is the bird of the wilderness, finding its sky in your eyes. The carefree and casual pen style is completely different from what the original author wrote in Chinese class. Staring at the numb line of words in front of Li Xinran, a thought suddenly came to her mind. Is this a love letter received by the original owner? But there is no such thing as a love letter in the original owner's memory, right? There is actually a male classmate who has been showing kindness to the original owner. Oh my God! Li Xinran shivered coldly, feeling a debt. Fortunately, she is going to the countryside soon. The further away she gets from this kind of thing, the better. As for this love letter, Li Xinran found a lighter from the space and lit it without hesitation. She breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the letter paper turn into fly ash. If it burns out, it's equivalent to not receiving it. Li Xinran carefully flipped through every book that followed, fearing that another one might suddenly fall out. Fortunately, none of them were found after flipping over. Li Xinran finally put the book back in place. She brought these books with her when she planned to go to the countryside, so there shouldn't be anything messy. There is also a small drawer under the table where books are placed, which has been wiped clean. Isn't it something exciting again? Li Xinran quickly pulled open. 3 crumpled 10 cents and 4 5-cents were neatly placed in the drawer, which the original owner had saved for a long time. Fortunately. Li Xinran patted her chest, but the money was nothing else. After checking, she closed the drawer and took all these things with her when she went to the countryside. Although there are enough things in the space, she has no money in this era. Now 5 cents is 5 cents. However, 50 cents is not enough. She should go out for a walk tomorrow and see if there is a chance to earn some money. She also needs to prepare more ready-made food, such as steamed buns and cakes. She has read many novels and TV dramas, and knows how difficult the life of educated youth can be. Maybe after going to the countryside, if she wants to secretly eat meat buns, she will have to hide in some deserted corner. Li Xinran looked at the sky outside and it was already a bit dark. She drew the curtains, locked the door, and got into the blanket. The figure on the bed disappeared in the next moment, and she had already appeared in the space. Li Xinran rolled up her sleeves, found flour, pork, and water, and began to work hard. Cake, steamed bun, mantou. Do as much as you can. After finishing, she neatly placed it aside. Just take it when she wants to eat. It wasn't until dawn that she stopped and flashed back to the bed in the room. After sleeping for 2 hours, Li Xinran immediately got up when he heard the sound of someone walking outside the room. Outside the door, Li's mother has already prepared breakfast for the whole family. Li's father, Li Dehai, works at a light bulb factory. Sister Li Xinmei works at a textile factory. After having breakfast, the two of them went out to work. Li Xinran said to his mother and went out. In the original owner's memory, I heard a classmate mention the location of the black market. Li Xinran plans to try his luck. She went out and found a deserted place, took out an eyebrow pencil, and drew a thick eyebrow for herself. As we approached the black market, we found a faux old scarf from the space and wrapped it around our heads tightly, revealing only a pair of eyes. Then a big basket collapsed on her arm, containing 2 big roosters and 10 pounds of pork. After some thought, she found 2 pounds of noodles and put them in the basket. The basket was covered with a layer of black cloth, and others couldn't even see what was inside. Li Xinran cautiously walked to the alley in the black market. She walked and observed all the way, and finally squatted down in an empty place. In less than 2 minutes, a man wearing glasses approached her and whispered, "Do you have any meat?" Li Xinran glanced at the man wearing glasses and nodded. Pork, with a ticket of 81 cents per kilogram, without a ticket, it costs 1 yuan. The man's eyes lit up and he said, "How much do you have?" 10 pounds, Li Xinran replied. "Take them all for me." The man wearing glasses, afraid that Li Xinran would back out, readily took out the money. When taking the pork, the man saw the moment when Li Xinran lifted the black cloth. His eyes narrowed and his breathing became somewhat rapid. "Do you have a big rooster here?" Li Xinran also nodded. Each one weighs 5 pounds, with a ticket costing 7 yuan and 51 yuan, and without a ticket costing 9 yuan. How many? The man leaned closer to her. 2. As soon as Li Xinran finished speaking, the man couldn't wait to say, "I'll take it all. Wait a few minutes for me and I'll be back soon. You must not leave." Before leaving, the man wearing glasses didn't forget to give a warning. Li Xinran immediately asked again, "Do you want noodles?" "How many pounds?" the man asked. Li Xinran thought for a moment and said, 6 pounds. Although she only has 2 pounds in her basket, if this man wants both, she will quietly take out a few pounds from the space later. The man wearing glasses glanced at Li Xinran's big basket and nodded. He doesn't have much food at home either. Although he has money, he can't buy anything, which is really uncomfortable. I didn't expect to come out today to try his luck, and he really caught it. After the man left, Li Xinran put some dried noodles in the basket again. Just as it was put away for a while, the man wearing glasses came with another man carrying a bag. "Do you have a big rooster and noodles?" the man carrying the bag asked first. Li Xinran lifted a corner of the black cloth and showed the two of them a glance. After reading it, the two of them readily gave money and exchanged big roosters and noodles. After collecting the money, Li Xinran carried a basket and quickly walked out of the alley. After finding a corner, she took off her scarf and put away the basket. When she reappeared, it was exactly the same as when she went out in the morning. She went home for lunch and changed into a new outfit in the afternoon. Carrying a large basket of brown sugar, white sugar, apples, and strawberries in the morning, I went to the black market again and earned 52 yuan. Looking at the early morning sky, she packed some rice and white noodles and went again. After 3 trips to the black market, I earned a total of 133 yuan. In the evening, Li's mother specially made dumplings filled with pork and cabbage. The family sat together, Li's parents constantly instructing, "When you arrive, you need to write a letter to your family and tell them what you need. It's more than 10 miles away from where you went to the countryside. Your brother is an educated youth there. If there's anything urgent, go find your brother." Li Xinran nodded in agreement. She has been working as an educated youth in the countryside for several years, and she doesn't know what to do. Chapter 3. Boarding the train. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After dinner, Li's mother handed a small box to Li Xinran. Li Xinran took it over in confusion and opened it to take a look. A neat and tidy 20 yuan, along with some food and meat stamps and cloth stamps, are placed inside. "Mom, I don't need it. You can keep it for yourself." She earned 133 yuan in the black market today, which is enough for her to use for a while after going to the countryside. Li's mother couldn't refuse to say, "Take it, what's the use of your 50 cents? Li Xinran's head was streaked with black lines, and she thought of the 50 cents in her drawer, so Li's mother knows everything. But she just earned money today, but she just can't tell Li Mu. Then let's take it over first. She won't take it away tomorrow. After Li's mother left, Li Xinran put the small box in the drawer. Knock 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 knock, the door rang. Li Xinran opened the door in confusion and said, "Sister. Little sister." Li Xinmei walked in with a small bag in her hand. "Sister, how much money do you have here? Take it." After speaking, Li Xinmei stuffed the small bag into her hand. "Sister, I don't want it. My mom gave me money just now," Li Xinran refused. She opened the drawer again and showed Li Xinmei the small box inside. Li Xinmei didn't even look and forcefully handed her the small bag in her hand. "What mom gave you is what mom gave you, and what I gave you is what I gave you." Li Xinmei continued, "Sister knows you have resentment in your heart, blaming your parents for not buying you a job." "Sister." Li Xinran didn't ask her sister to continue speaking and interrupted directly. "I've figured out that I'm going to the countryside, let's not talk about anything else. After I arrive at the place, I will write to you." Li Xinmei glanced at her and sighed, saying nothing more. She has been stubborn since childhood, otherwise she wouldn't have known how angry she was after going to the countryside for so long. Before going back to bed, Li Xinmei still stuffed the small bag into her hand. Li Xinran also placed the small bag in the drawer. I don't know how her sister saved the money here. She has food, clothing, and money in her space, so let's stay at home. Li Xinran thought about the situation at home and took advantage of the fact that it was already dark outside. All the family members went back to their houses to sleep. She quietly went to the place where the rice and noodles were placed in the kitchen, took some out of the space and added it in. After doing everything, she returned to the room and closed the door, then entered the space again. Take out pork ribs and stew chicken on top, and when she wants to eat it in the future, she can eat it directly. When Li Xinran woke up the next day, he heard a sound coming from the kitchen. Li's mother is busy making breakfast in the kitchen. She opened the rice bag to cook some congee. Just how she feels, there seems to be too much rice in the rice bag. Li's mother looked up at the light bulb in the room, it must be too dark inside. She was mistaken. Why is there so much rice for no reason? Li's mother instinctively glanced again, as if there were a few more things in the kitchen. It must be that the room is too dark to see clearly. Li Xinran has already woken up and started tidying up. She took out the original owner's crossbody bag and packed all the books on the desk into it. After leaving, she put these books into the space. There are also 2 large packages of things and a basin in the living room. Li's mother saw her come out and handed her an aluminum lunchbox, which contained dumplings she had just made yesterday. Put it away, if you're hungry, eat on the train. Speaking, Li's mother brought a green kettle from the table again. Li Xinran remembers that this kettle was mailed back by her elder brother, who was an educated youth. When I received this kettle, the whole family was very happy. And this kettle is filled with hot water to drink on the train. Li Xinran nodded one by one and took it, placing it in her crossbody bag. Li's mother looked at her crossbody bag, which contained several books, and glanced at it without saying anything. After breakfast, neither Li's father nor his elder sister Li Xinmei went to work. Instead, they took a leave to go see her off. Before leaving, Li's mother asked again, "Have you taken all the money with you?" Li Xinran immediately replied, "Take it with you, I'll keep it close to you." After speaking, she still patted her chest. Li's mother confirmed that nothing had been left behind before the family left. Li's father was carrying a big bag, Li's mother was carrying a big bag, and she walked behind their elder sister Li Xinmei. After arriving at the train station, Li's parents kept instructing him. Li Xinran saw that the train was coming soon and walked up to Li's mother, saying, "Mom, when you go home, go check out the drawer in my room. Sister, you should also come and take a look in the drawer in my room." After speaking, she climbed onto the train with a big bag in her left hand and a big bag in her right hand. Li Mu and Li Xinmei were confused and didn't know why they had to go to the drawer to take a look. After the 2 of them arrive home, open the drawer under the table. A small box and a small bag were quietly placed there. Li Mu picked up the small box and saw that the 20 yuan and various receipts inside were left intact without any movement. Li Xinmei also picked up her small bag and saw that the money inside was also well placed inside. The 2 of them looked at the money in their hands, then looked at each other inside. The train was full of educated youth traveling to various places, and everyone was packed in small packages. Li Xinran put in a lot of effort to find her seat. As soon as I put my things away and sat down, a white and pure girl appeared in front of me. In this era where everyone's skin is somewhat waxy yellow, the girl in front of her looks whiter than the average person's skin. A pair of watery big eyes, 2 big braids on the chest, and a plaid jacket, it is very special in the dusty crowd. Li Xinran couldn't help but take a few more glances. "Hello, my name is Zhou Xiaonan. I am your neighbor, what is your name?" Li Xinran was momentarily stunned. Zhou Xiaonan. Isn't this the female lead of a novel she has read? Is she not only traveling or reading? There is also a character named Li Xinran in that book. That's a person who lacks heart and eyes. She treats the female lead as a good friend and shares everything delicious with her. But the female lead is enjoying the things of the female support Li Xinran while also using her. So she's dressed as a supporting actress now. Xinran suppressed her doubts and saw if the male lead would appear in the future, just to see if she was wearing a book. My name is Xinran. Seeing Xinran's response, Zhou Xiaonan smiled. Where did you become an educated youth? Chapter 4. Wearing books. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xinran deliberately only mentioned one province, but unexpectedly, Zhou Xiaonan became interested. I'm also in this province. Then Zhou Xiaonan asked the name of the city and the name of the county. The names of the places they were going to were identical. Which commune are you in? The excitement in Zhou Xiaonan's eyes was already uncontrollable. I didn't expect two strangers in the same city to go to the same place and become educated youth. Dongfang Commune. Xinran named the commune she was going to. She also wants to know if the girl in front of her is the protagonist in the book. Almost as soon as the words were spoken, Zhou Xiaonan excitedly grabbed her hand. We are both in the same commune. It's such a coincidence. Can we be good friends together? After arriving at Dongfang Commune, feel free to come to me if you have anything to do. Zhou Xiaonan looked enthusiastic and spoke enthusiastically. Xinran silently withdrew the tightly held hand. If this is really the female lead, it's better for her to stay away. She remembered that it was a romance novel, and all the characters were catalysts that propelled the relationship between the male and female protagonists. She doesn't want to be a catalyst. She wants to live well as a person, and stay away from all the other messy things. After half a day without waiting for Xinran's answer, Zhou Xiaonan gave her a puzzled look. Xinran. Don't you want to? Xinran almost rolled her eyes. She's willing to be a big-headed ghost. Has it been 3 minutes since we met? Xinran in the book doesn't really treat her as a good friend just because she met such a female lead in the car, right? That's really a heartless person with bold capital letters. The train has started. Xinran didn't want to answer and turned his head to look at the figure retreating outside the window, directly changing the topic. Yes, the train has started. Zhou Xiaonan also glanced outside the window and agreed. I don't know what the Oriental Commune looks like either. Zhou Xiaonan muttered and then looked at her as if unintentionally. Xinran, do you know? I don't know. Xinran answered expressionlessly. What else can we do? It won't be much better after all. A girl sitting opposite Xinran said with a displeased expression on her face. As soon as he finished speaking, a boy sitting next to her gave her a warning glance. Wang Xiaoying, we are going to the countryside as educated youth to build our country. Wang Xiaoying shrank her head and pouted without leaving a trace. If it weren't for the notice to go to the countryside, who would be going? At this moment, the boy across from him introduced to Xinran, my name is Chen Jianxi and I am classmates with Zhou Xiaonan. At this point, Chen Jianxi glanced in the direction of Zhou Xiaonan before continuing, I also went to the Oriental Commune to become an educated youth. Xinran nodded, not ignoring Chen Jianxi's interesting glance just now. After all, if you really wear books, the person across from you would be the childhood sweetheart of the female lead. Unfortunately, it's not the male lead, and even bamboo horses are useless. My name is Wang Xiaoying, and Zhou Xiaonan and I are also classmates. We went to Dongfang Commune. Seeing 3 people in 2 rows of seats, they all introduced themselves, and Wang Xiaoying also introduced themselves. Xinran also nodded. Wang Xiaoying, another follower of the female lead. It seems that this train is mainly to prepare more slaves for the female protagonist, so that she can have an easier life in the future. Alright, now that we all know each other, we must help each other from now on. Zhou Xiaonan blinked and said timely. Whenever Xinran thought of the description in that book, he didn't want to talk. She turned her head directly outside the window, pretending to be looking at the scenery. After watching for a while, my neck was sore. I closed my eyes and leaned back in my seat, pretending to sleep. I didn't expect to actually fall asleep while pretending. When I woke up again, I smelled the mixed taste of various dishes. Li Xinran glanced left and right, and some people had already started eating. Zhou Xiaonan next to her is also eating a piece of dim sum in a small bite, the same as Chen Jianxi in the opposite direction. Wang Xiaoying was actually gnawing on a piece of coarse grain cake. Xinran, do you want to eat? Seeing Li Xinran open her eyes, Zhou Xiaonan asked with concern. Li Xinran touched the crossbody bag on her leg, which contained dumplings made by Li's mother for her, and then touched her stomach. No, I'm not hungry. I'll eat later. After speaking, Li Xinran moved her neck and waist, and the thought of having to take a train all night made her feel pain all over. Wang Xiaoying, who was eating pancakes with her head down, glanced up at Li Xinran when she heard that she didn't eat. Then he took a big bite into a cake. Li Xinran was afraid of her choking when she looked at her. How much water should I drink? Is it really not good to eat like this? Zhou Xiaonan also cast a skeptical glance at Li Xinran. Then I looked at the crossbody bag in front of her again, as if I understood something. In the afternoon, Li Xinran felt hungry before taking out the dumplings from the lunchbox. Walked to the hot water and rinsed the dumplings with hot water. She took out the kettle from her bag again and added some spring water from the space into it. When they returned to their seats, the three of them looked at the plump and white dumplings in Li Xinran's lunch box with a stern gaze. And that green kettle. Xinran, you actually brought dumplings. Zhou Xiaonan couldn't help but ask. She didn't expect Li Xinran to have dumplings to eat. When everyone was eating at noon, she didn't eat because she thought her family was poor and didn't have anything to eat. At that time, she gave Li Xinran a piece of cake, and now she also has dumplings to eat. Wang Xiaoying across from him glared at Li Xinran angrily. Li Xinran nodded and said, She doesn't care so much, this is the dumpling prepared by Li's mother for her. Moreover, dumplings are rare nowadays, and it is impossible to give them to others to eat. Even the female lead cannot do it. Even if you are a colleague from the same commune in the future, it won't work. She has no interest in building a good relationship with the female lead or anything else. Li Xinran calmly finished a whole box of dumplings, not to mention that Li's mother's craftsmanship was really good. After finishing her meal, she sat in her seat, holding a kettle in her hand and occasionally took a sip. After strolling in the train aisle for a while, she returned to her seat. Without giving anyone a chance to speak, she sat down for 2 minutes and yawned before closing her eyes and pretending to sleep. Zhou Xiaonan looked at Li Xinran sitting next to her and didn't know how she could sleep so well. Apart from eating, it's just sleeping. Apart from eating, it's just sleeping. Chapter 5. On the Road. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The whole night was shaky, and Li Xinran slept in a daze, waking up several times in the middle. After opening her eyes and seeing the dawn, she went to the sink to wash her face first. When she returned to her seat, she took out 2 buns and an egg from the space under the guise of a crossbody bag. The kettle still contains sweet spring water of space. When Zhou Xiaonan and the 3 of them finished washing up and returned to their seats, they saw Li Xinran eating white and chubby buns. Zhou Xiaonan and a few others sat next to Li Xinran, as if they could smell the aroma of steamed buns. After taking a glance at the buns in her hand, Chen Jianxi turned around and went to the dining car to buy 4. After buying steamed buns, Chen Jianxi handed 2 to Zhou Xiaonan on the opposite side. After taking it, Zhou Xiaonan smiled sweetly and then lowered her head to eat. After just taking a bite, Zhou Xiaonan looked up at the steamed bun in Li Xinran's hand. How did she feel that the buns in Li Xinran's hand were whiter than those in her hand, and they seemed to be more fragrant than those in her hand? Sitting together, Wang Xiaoying saw all 3 of them eating steamed buns, and her face looked a bit ugly. Lowering his head, he angrily took out another coarse grain cake and started eating it. Li Xinran didn't care at all, eating 1 mouthful of spring water and 1 mouthful of steamed buns. After eating them, she felt that the fatigue in her body had eased a bit. Woo 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 woo, the train whistle sounded and finally arrived at their destination station. Xinran had already packed her crossbody bag, and the textbooks inside had already been stored in her space. At this moment, she was holding a large bag in both hands, with a basin hanging on top. After struggling to get off the train, Xinran took a deep breath of fresh air. There is no smell of food, no messy smell, and after taking a breath of air, my head feels much clearer. Looking back, Zhou Xiaonan was only carrying 2 small bags, while Chen Jianxi beside her was carrying them on her shoulders and carrying them with her hands, and it was unclear whether they were all his own. Xinran, let's go take the bus together, Zhou Xiaonan said with a smile. Xinran nodded. Train and bus tickets are pre-booked and cannot be changed. She couldn't have deliberately changed the bus schedule to avoid the female lead, otherwise she wouldn't have met the person who would pick them up. After sitting in the car for another 2 hours, Xinran saw many educated youth carrying big and small bags gathered together in groups of 3 or 5. Xinran and his companions found the place with the Eastern Society written on it, waiting for someone to come and pick it up. In just a few minutes, she saw a tractor driving towards them with a burst of smoke. Xinran's eyes lit up as he didn't expect the person who came to pick them up so quickly. Is this the tractor coming to pick us up? Zhou Xiaonan next to her stepped forward to see more clearly. As soon as the words fell, the tractor arrogantly drove past them, leaving them with a burst of black smoke. Cough cough cough. Zhou Xiaonan bent over due to choking in front of a few people. When Xinran passed by the tractor in front of them, he saw that the red flag standing on the car was not written about Dongfang Commune at all. Less than a few steps away, the tractor stopped and several educated youth happily boarded the tractor. How did this tractor operate? Such a big smoke. Zhou Xiaonan, who had just straightened up, couldn't help but complain. 2222, the tractor came again with a burst of black smoke. Xinran quickly took a few steps back to avoid being smoked. Zhou Xiaonan was still stunned when Chen Jianxi pulled her behind her. Xinran watched the movements between the two and instinctively took another step back. Stay away from love dogs. Otherwise, it is easy to be smoked by black smoke. Especially between the female lead and the male supporting role, she needs to stay further away, otherwise she may accidentally become cannon fodder. After waiting and waiting, it was already past noon when a mule cart slowly rushed over and stopped in front of the 4 people. On the mule cart floated a red flag with the words, Oriental Commune written on it. The old man swinging his whip jumped off the mule cart and walked up to the 4 people. Are you going to the Oriental Commune? Yes, uncle, we're going to Dongfang Commune, Zhou Xiaonan said again. Xinran and the other 3 nodded along. The old man looked at Zhou Xiaonan in front with disdain, and the more fair and beautiful she was, the more difficult she was to work. Looking back at Xinran and Wang Xiaoying, the disgust on their faces became even more apparent. They were both young women who could do nothing but cause trouble. On the other hand, the man next to him looks decent, tall, and seems capable of working. Let's go back to the commune first. The old man jumped onto the mule cart with his hands behind his back. Xinran immediately picked up 2 large packages and placed them on the mule cart, then followed closely and jumped onto the mule cart. The old man glanced at Xinran and a smile appeared on his face. Okay, you're a girl with quick movements and no ink stains, capable of working. He has seen some educated youth slowly soar on a mule cart. Xinran didn't expect to receive praise because she got on the car quickly. She pursed her lips with embarrassment and smiled, "Thank you, uncle." The old man waved his hand and said, "The kids in your city have a lot to do, so thank you for everything." Upon hearing the old man's words, Zhou Xiaonan and his companions quickly got on the mule cart and put away their luggage. They don't want to leave a bad impression before they reach their destination. As soon as the few people sat down, the old man waved his whip and the mule cart ran. The 4 people in the car suddenly fell backwards at the same time. Fortunately, I didn't fall off the car. After Xinran sat upright again, he firmly grasped the mule cart with his right hand, fearing that it would happen again. Chen Jianxi and Zhou Xiaonan also found a place to support them. After getting used to the mule cart for a while, Xinran slowly moved to the old man's side. "Uncle, how long will it take for us to get to the village?" The old man swung his whip and looked ahead, saying, "If it's fast, it'll be there in an hour and a half." Dust and dust flew all the way, occasionally bumping and the road getting narrower and narrower. When he arrived at the Dongfang commune, Xinran felt dizzy and his brain was swollen, and his stomach was surging, almost about to vomit. "It's time to get off the car. After getting off the car, wait here. The production team leader will come soon." The old man shouted at the few people in the car as if nothing had happened. Xinran sat in the car and slowed down for a few seconds before carefully helping the mule cart down. After coming down, she took down her luggage and placed it at her feet, waiting for the production team leader. While waiting, Xinran heard waves of vomiting coming from his ear. She turned her head and saw Zhou Xiaonan bending over to support the mule cart, vomiting profusely. Chen Jianxi looked worried at Zhou Xiaonan from the side. Chapter 6. Arriving at the Educated Youth Point. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ouch. She just glanced at it, and the discomfort that had just been suppressed in her stomach almost surged up. Xinran immediately turned his head to look at the vast wilderness in the distance, with an endless expanse of green. Nearby are several thatched cottages, as well as a few scattered brick houses. She took out the kettle from her crossbody bag again, took a sip of water, and finally the churning vomit subsided. Are you the new educated youth? A middle-aged man wearing a blue coat walked slowly to several people with his hands behind his back. Yes. A few people nodded, and even Zhou Xiaonan had a pale face and straightened up. Welcome to the Beishan Village Production Brigade of Dongfang Commune. I am the production team leader, Zhao Dashan. The middle-aged man introduced with full confidence. Hello, Captain. A few people bent down and nodded again. Captain Zhao glanced at a few people, their faces looking a bit long. Surprisingly, there are 3 young women, especially the one with a white face, who can vomit even when sitting on a mule cart, making them just useless girls. And there are those 2 thin and weak ones behind, maybe even a gust of strong wind can blow them away. Alright, today you go to the Educated Youth Center to settle down, and start working tomorrow. Captain Zhao walked towards the Educated Youth Point with a few people while speaking. After walking for a few minutes, the 5 of them arrived at a small courtyard. Captain Zhao raised his hand and pointed, "This is where the Educated Youth Order is. The room on the left is occupied by a male educated youth, and the room on the right is occupied by a female educated youth. You can find a place to live on your own. Besides, you are newly graduated educated youth. The village will provide you with a month's worth of grain in advance. After earning your wages, remember to pay back by the end of the year." Xinran looked at the row of houses in the courtyard in confusion, wondering how they were connected together. Do male and female educated youth live under the same roof? Is it so exciting? Even if it's to promote the relationship between the male and female protagonists, there's no need to resort to any means. Xinran swallowed and was about to open her mouth. Zhou Xiaonan beside her couldn't help but ask, "Captain Zhao, do both male and female educated youth live here?" Captain Zhao lifted his eyelids. The men live on the left and the women live on the right, and the houses are all separated separately. Xinran closed her eyes. Okay. It's all like this, let's take a look inside the house first. The village chief finished speaking and left without any hesitation. It seems like I'm afraid they'll have to ask questions again. Xinran and the others looked at the courtyard door in front of them, unsure of what to do. Are they just pushing the door in like this? What if it causes misunderstandings among the educated youth? Just as she was unsure what to do, there was a woman with short hair who looked a bit old and walked towards the small courtyard. The woman saw a few people in front of the courtyard and a pile of luggage on the ground, and smiled and asked, "Are you the new educated youth today?" Xinran and the others immediately replied as soon as they saw someone there, "Yes, we are the educated youth who came today." The woman continued to introduce, "My name is Zhao Meiwan, and I am also an educated youth here. I have been to the countryside for several years. The captain has already said that a group of new educated youth will come today. I happen to be cooking today, so I came back early." "Miss Meiwan." A few people shouted politely. Zhao Meijuan's smile widened a bit as she pushed open the door of the small courtyard and said, "Bring the things in first. There are some vegetables planted in front of the small courtyard. There is also a well next to it, and behind it is a row of houses. There are 3 rooms in the house, with the larger one on the left and the smaller one in the middle." Zhao Meiwan pointed to the left door and said to Qin Jianxi, "The room on the left is where male educated youth live. Now all the male educated youth are working and will not come back until a while. You can find a vacant spot to live in." Qin Jianxi glanced to the left, but his body did not move. Seeing Zhao Meiwan and Zhou Xiaonan walking towards the right, he also followed. Zhao Meiwan was about to open the door on the right when she saw Qin Jianxi behind her and stopped in confusion. Qin Jianxi walked up to Zhou Xiaonan with a bundle, bent down, and put down a large bag. "Xiaonan, I put the things here for you." "Well, thank you." Zhou Xiaonan looked pale and nodded. Zhao Meiwan couldn't help but take a second look at the newly arrived Zhou Xiaonan and Qin Jianxi. This new female educated youth has something to offer. But she has also seen such feelings before. In less than a year, emotions will be rubbed away by life. Zhao Meiwan withdrew her gaze and opened the door. Xinran followed with 2 large bags in his hand. She wants to quickly put down her things now and doesn't want to see any romantic scenes between the female lead and male support. Wang Xiaoying also carried something and followed into the door. Backward Zhou Xiaonan, with a small white face, struggled to pick up the big bundle on the ground and followed behind a few people. Entering the house is like a large kong. Without any cover, it was clear that there were 2 places on the kong where luggage was placed. Zhao Meiwan pointed to those 2 places and said, "This is my and Sun Yanyan's bunk. Sun Yanyan is currently working and you will see him soon. The remaining 3 places happen to be chosen by each of you." "Ah, why is it a big shop? How are you going to sleep?" Zhou Xiaonan looked at the large kong in front of her, with a pale expression on her face. Xinran quickly glanced at it. Without saying a word, he picked up the luggage in his hand and chose a bunk next to the wall. Instead of sleeping with people on both sides, it's better to choose a position against the wall. If one side is missing, one side is missing. Wang Xiaoying also chose a place and put down the burden in her hand. Finally, there is only the middle position left. Zhou Xiaonan bit her lip, with a white face and lowered her head, and walked over with grievances. Zhao Meiwan kindly explained, "It's cold here in winter, and we all sleep on the kong. The kong burns warm." "Oh, that's right." Zhou Xiaonan seemed to have a sudden realization and said. Zhao Meiwan continued, "You guys pack up, I'll go cook first." After speaking, he turned around and left. Xinran sat on her bunk, taking out the blankets and bedding one by one and laying them out. "But there's still no place to put the clothes I usually wear, is it just stacked on the bunk like this? The place where she sleeps is much smaller." Xinran looked around. There are 2 wooden cabinets opposite the wall, both with locks hanging on them, probably belonging to Zhao Meiwan and Sun Yanyan. If she also had such a wooden cabinet, she could put clothes and unused items inside. It seems that she needs to ask Zhao Meiwan later how she got this cabinet. Chapter 7. First weight loss meal. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Not long after, Xinran laid out the bed. She took out the kettle from her crossbody bag and took a sip of the spring water, feeling much more comfortable. Under the guise of a crossbody bag, he took out a piece of chocolate from the space and threw it into his mouth. I haven't eaten anything for almost half a day since I had a bun and egg this morning. As soon as the chocolate was in her mouth and she hadn't been waiting for her to chew, she heard a sentence coming from beside her. Xinran, what are you eating? Xinran knew it was Zhou Xiaonan without looking at the sound. She's all strange, is Zhou Xiaonan specifically staring at her? Eat sugar. Xinran casually replied with a sentence. Zhou Xiaonan looked curiously at the crossbody bag in Xinran's hand. How many delicious and sweet dumplings are there in Xinran's crossbody bag? After finishing the chocolate, Xinran took the basin and planned to go out and wash her face. The dust was flying all the way, and she felt like she was covered in a layer of dust all over her body. If possible, she would like to take a shower. Knock 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 knock, the door rang. Xinran happened to be standing at the door and opened the door. Is Zhou Xiaonan here? Xinran looked at Chen Jianxi, who was still holding a bag of brown sugar in his hand, and nodded. I'm here. Zhou Xiaonan heard someone shouting and immediately ran to the door. Xinran walked out sideways, leaving his seat for Zhou Xiaonan. When she arrived at the courtyard, she walked to the well and fetched a bucket of water to wash her face and hands, trying her best to remove the dust from her body. After washing, she stood in the courtyard to take a look. The small room between male and female educated youth is the kitchen. Now the kitchen door is open, and Zhao Meiwan is cooking in the kitchen. When I returned to the room again, I saw Zhou Xiaonan holding a bag of brown sugar in his hand. Xinran glanced and then withdrew his gaze. There is really no privacy in this room. Anything you do or say can be seen clearly. If only she had the opportunity to live alone in a house in the future. After a while, voices came from the entrance of the courtyard. The three of Xinran, who were helping in the kitchen, couldn't help but take a look outside. Several men and women returned with tired faces. This should be the educated youth living here. Xinran counted and added their new educated youth. There were a total of 5 male educated youth and 5 female educated youth living in this small courtyard. Zhou Xiaonan occasionally glanced out when she saw someone coming back. After a male educated youth wearing glasses came to the kitchen. Zhou Xiaonan took a step forward immediately and said with a smile on her face, "Hello, my name is Zhou Xiaonan and I am a new educated youth." The male educated youth wearing glasses across from him heard his name and took a serious look at Zhou Xiaonan in front of him. A faint smile appeared on the expressionless face. "Hello, my name is Chen Tianhua." Zhou Xiaonan's eyes lit up instantly, as if the signal had been successfully connected. After hearing the name, Xinran couldn't help but take a few more glances at Chen Tianhua. Wearing glasses and a refined demeanor, looking like a progressive youth. This is the male lead. Xinran remembers that in that book, Chen Tianhua and Zhou Xiaonan had been close friends for a long time and were pen pals he had never met before. Zhou Xiaonan went to the countryside to pursue love. The book depicts the first meeting between the two. Although there is no surface disturbance, the small flame in their hearts has already been ignited. At this point, the two of them can be considered to have successfully laid the foundation. At this moment, several old educated youth also came to the kitchen one after another. Everyone sat around a table. Zhou Xiaonan is next to Chen Tianhua on the left, Chen Jianxi on the right, and next to Chen Jianxi is Wang Xiaoying. Xinran casually found a seat and sat down. She looked at the 4 people next to her as if seeing a mess. Female lead number 1, female lead number 2, male lead, all gathered together. At the dinner table, it was inevitable that everyone would introduce themselves again. My name is Xinran. She felt like she had said this sentence countless times today. After the dishes were served, Li Xinran looked at the beans, cucumbers, and tofu. In my heart, I could not help roast that if it were not for the corn cake in front of me, this would be a proper diet. Several old educated youth saw the plate of tofu, but their eyes lit up. A male educated youth named Zhou Zheng smiled and said, "Yo, there's tofu to eat today. Miss Mei Wan, you haven't revealed any news yet. This surprise is really nice." As they spoke, the chopsticks in their hands ran towards the plate of tofu. Zhao Meiwan glanced at Li Xinran and the others, smiled, and said, "This is the captain's message to welcome a few new educated youth." Yo, that's really a shining example of a few new educated youth. Li Xinran only then realized that the tofu was specially sent by the captain, that's not just about eating beans and cucumbers. And she just saw that there were beans, cucumbers, and tomatoes growing in the courtyard. There won't be only a few dishes on the table in the future. Li Xinran is very worried about his food for the next 2 years. She doesn't want to become a rabbit. And it is very likely to be a small, skinny rabbit with dim fur. If only we could eat separately. 10 educated youth, 3 dishes. That's it. Li Xinran only ate 1 piece of tofu. When she looked up again and wanted to pick up a piece of tofu, there was not even any soup left on the plate. In a few minutes, the beans and cucumbers were also gone. When Li Xinran finished the last bite of rice in the bowl, she and Zhou Xiaonan, 2 female educated youth, were the only ones left at the dinner table. Li Xinran was stunned for a moment, not expecting everyone to eat so quickly. In the end, there was only her and the female lead left, which made her a bit embarrassed. After everyone finished eating, none of them left. Zhao Meiwan was the first to say, at the educated youth point, it is the female educated youth who take turns cooking and washing dishes, 1 person per day, 1 person cooking, and the rest washing dishes. The male educated youth is responsible for cutting firewood and lifting water. If you don't want to cook and wash dishes, you can ask someone for help. Today is when I cook and you wash the dishes. Tomorrow is Yen, and the day after tomorrow it will be your 3 new female educated youth turn. Li Xinran and the others nodded knowingly, knowing that since they had all eaten, they must wash the dishes. Zhao Meiwan continued to speak, as for the grain, you can take as much as you want while cooking. Remember to make good marks yourself. Li Xinran and others listened attentively, after all, we still have to live together at the moment. After Zhao Meiwan made it clear, the people on the table left. The remaining female educated youth go wash the dishes. Li Xinran squatted by the well, washing the dishes in his hand. I didn't expect that the first thing she did after going to the countryside was to wash a bunch of dishes first. Chapter 8. Buying Cabinets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 9. Doing a good job in sunscreen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dong 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 dong, the deafening sound of the bell seemed to ring in Li Xinran's ear. She couldn't help but flip over, pull up the blanket, cover her head, and want to continue sleeping. Get up soon, don't sleep, we're going to work. Zhao Meijuan's familiar voice rang out beside her. Li Xinran looked out of the window vaguely, and it was just dawn. Is it 5 o'clock now? Li Xinran muttered a sentence. Zhao Meiwan did not answer, only said one sentence, get up quickly, no work, no job. Sigh. Li Xinran sighed. Work points, she will have to rely on earning work points to survive in the future. A few seconds later, Li Xinran struggled to get up. After washing up, she saw that the old educated youth had already walked out the door. Don't you eat? Li Xinran looked blankly at the kitchen, where there was nothing but a cold pot and stove. Leave 2 hours of work first, and then come back to eat. Zhao Meiwan explained. Ah. Although Li Xinran was ready to endure hardship, the hardships came a bit off guard. After a moment of confusion, Li Xinran followed Zhao Meiwan and Sun Yanyan as they walked out. Not long after walking, I saw a team of people gathered together, waiting for the captain to assign farm work. As soon as Li Xinran and her female educated youth arrived, several people looked at them. Occasionally, one or two voices of discussion can still be heard. Yo, this new female educated youth is really white. It looks really nice. No, those two big braids look really likable. The two newcomers next to me are also pretty good, they're just a bit yellow. Li Xinran stood aside, as if he hadn't heard anything. If she were to rush out and argue now, that would be a joke. Zhou Xiaonan, however, lowered her head and frowned, feeling a bit unhappy. Zhao Meiwan, as the eldest sister among the few, kindly said, "When I first went to the countryside, it was the same. After a while, the freshness of the villagers' enthusiasm passed and it improved." Sun Yanyan on the side also said, "When I first arrived, it was the same. Zhou Xiaonan's face has just improved a bit." Li Xinran also nodded in understanding. Soon, the village chief arrived. Start distributing agricultural work. After distributing agricultural work, those who need agricultural tools go to the agricultural tool room to collect them. After work at night, they also need to return them. If it is used up, compensation will also be required. If you don't need agricultural tools, go directly to the field. Like their new educated youth, they don't have agricultural tools. The people in the village don't believe they can do the work, and the allocation of agricultural tools to them is also a waste. The three female educated youth were assigned the task of pulling grass. Just squat down and reach out your hand, then pull it out. When Li Xinran arrived at the farmland, he couldn't see the nearby farmland at a glance. If she doesn't have to work, Li Xinran really wants to write a poem to express her longing for the beauty of nature. Now she only has 4 big characters in her eyes. Pulling grass and job responsibilities. Work division, pulling grass. Next to Li Xinran, who was working, was an old lady from the village. The old lady was wearing a straw hat, skillfully squatting and pulling the grass while looking at Li Xinran. "Are you a new educated youth? I haven't seen you before." Li Xinran was carefully pulling out the grass when he heard someone talking next to him and nodded in response. "Have you done these jobs before?" "I have done it," Li Xinran replied. Of course, what she said was that she had done agricultural work in the countryside before crossing over, when she was young in modern times. "When Auntie saw you, she knew you were a good child who could work, knowing which one was a seedling and which one was a grass." Li Xinran's head was marked with black lines. "Auntie, are you praising people like that?" "Auntie, let me tell you, some educated youth don't even know whether it's a seedling or a grass, they just know how to pull it blindly." Hee hee. Li Xinran smiled and didn't know how to start a conversation. Auntie approached again, and Li Xinran took a few steps. "Auntie, let me tell you, working in the morning is okay now, it's not too hot. By noon, it's scorching hot. You are delicate and tender, you must not expose a layer of skin to the sun." Li Xinran pulled out the grass while nodding. "She has prepared sunscreen and a scarf, and when she comes out after breakfast, she will wrap around it. I just don't know why this lady told me this, why? A pure and kind-hearted person." The lady grinned and pointed to the straw hat on her finger. "Look, everyone in our village wears this straw hat. Wearing a straw hat, it won't be as sunny anymore. Otherwise, as a little girl like you, you might not have gotten too dark in the sun." After speaking, the lady approached Li Xinran and whispered, 3 cents a head, do you want it or not? "Auntie, if you like me, I'll give you a cheaper price." Li Xinran looked at the straw hat and found that Sanmao was still good. With the straw hat, she was able to secure an additional 10%. Li Xinran thought for a moment and asked, "Is it brand new?" She doesn't want to wear a straw hat that smells like someone else's sweat. As soon as the lady heard that there was a door, she immediately replied, "New, all made up by my man himself." Xinran adhered to the principle of bargaining whenever possible and reduced the price by half, a penny. Line. The lady readily agreed. Xinran felt uncomfortable. She felt like she had been tricked and slaughtered by others as if she were a fat sheep. The lady treated Xinran with even more enthusiasm. "After breakfast, I'll go to the empty space just now and wait for you. I'll give you the straw hat." Xinran responded. The more enthusiastic the lady is now, the more severe the feeling of being slaughtered. "Auntie doesn't know your name yet." Xinran. "Okay, Auntie remembers you now." Xinran took a deep breath. No matter how she listened, it didn't sound like a good word. After pulling out the grass for a while, Xinran felt a severe pain in her hands. When she looked up, her fingers turned red. "If I pull it for a few days, I don't know what her hand will turn into." Hands that were originally not very good wouldn't turn into a pair of chicken claws, would they? As soon as Xinran thought of a pair of black and thick chicken claws struggling to pull out the grass, he was suddenly aroused. It's too scary. She must find a pair of gloves to wear. When Xinran pulled out the grass and felt back pain and leg cramps, the captain shouted loudly at the edge of the field, and everyone immediately stopped their movements and walked towards home. Xinran stood up and stretched his legs, then moved his waist. "Xinran, remember about the straw hat." As she was about to leave, the lady beside her didn't forget to hold Xinran's arm and enthusiastically said something. Xinran nodded and automatically translated the words of the lady in her heart. "Don't forget the money." Chapter 10. Comprehensive Sunscreen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When she returned to the Educated Youth Center, Sun Yanyan had already prepared breakfast. A few tough steamed buns and a small plate of dark pickled vegetables. Xinran only took one loaf of grain, so naturally breakfast was just one loaf. After taking the wawawutu, she took a bite and really choked. After swallowing for a while, she couldn't swallow it. In order to have a smooth bite, she stood up and went to fetch a cup of hot water. I also added some spring water to the hot water. A mouthful of hot water, a mouthful of food, finally finished. Zhou Xiaonan next to her also eats slowly. A few old educated youth had already gotten used to it and finished eating with their usual expressions. Zhao Meiwan saw Xinran and Zhou Xiaonan looking like this and walked up to them, saying, "It's tiring to do farm work all day, so the best thing to do next morning is to have some food." When she first went to the countryside, she was also accustomed to this and that. But a few years have passed, and those coquettishness has long been worn away. Eating enough is true, the feeling of being hungry is not good. Xinran nodded clearly, realizing that there were still meat buns in her space. When you're hungry, find a place without anyone and secretly eat one. Zhou Xiaonan also nodded, she could bear this hardship. As soon as she thought about her purpose of going to the countryside, her heart was filled with strength. It was Wang Xiaoying who lowered her head and ate the steamed buns, looking very adapted. Zhao Meiwan looked at the two of them and didn't say much. The newly educated youth always couldn't listen, and it would be better in a month. After dinner, Xinran pretended to apply sunscreen to his face, neck, arms while applying hand cream. When Sun Yanyan saw Xinran painting like this, she couldn't help but take a few more curious glances. This new educated youth is really rich. Apply not only to the neck but also to the arms. It's her first time meeting. After Xinran finished painting, she went to the cabinet and found a piece of gauze to wrap around her head. When doing farm work later, she will wear another straw hat. In that case, the face and neck will definitely be well protected. After thinking for a moment, she took out the kettle again. On such a hot day, she must drink more hot water to replenish her body's water. Sun Yanyan sat on the side, occasionally glancing at Xinran. After seeing the brand new scarf, her eyes immediately showed a look of envy. My gaze stopped on the scarf, and I couldn't resist moving it away. I couldn't help but ask, Xinran, how beautiful your scarf is. Xinran looked in the mirror, sorting out the gauze and saying, thank you. Where did you buy this scarf? Sun Yanyan asked again. Xinran said very naturally, Rongcheng. She came from Rongcheng, so naturally she bought it in Rongcheng. Zhou Xiaonan sat on her bunk, listening to their conversation. Rongcheng. Is it a department store in Rongcheng? She just glanced a few times as she passed by, but there was no money to buy it. Unexpectedly, Xinran, who had been with her, seemed particularly wealthy. Zhou Xiaonan lowered her head and a few deep thoughts flashed in her eyes. Sun Yanyan's gaze still lingered on Xinran's scarf. Seeing her close the cabinet, she asked with some confusion, Xinran, I'm going to work soon. Why are you still wearing such a beautiful scarf? When working, you may accidentally scratch it. Sun Yanyan's tone was filled with heartache, as if it was her scarf that was about to be scratched. I'm afraid of sun exposure. It's better to surround like this, Xinran said casually. Her skin is already a bit yellow now, if it gets any darker, it will turn black-yellow. Within a limited range, she still wants to cover up a little whiter, so she covers up a little whiter. Sun Yanyan nodded in agreement, feeling that it was very hot while doing farm work. But it seems that only Xinran is willing to wear a scarf. Sun Yanyan looked again, Zhou Xiaonan and Wang Xiaoying. Zhou Xiaonan touched her face thoughtfully, as if she was thinking something. Sun Yanyan glanced and then turned her head. With such a white face, I don't know what it will look like after this summer. After Xinran packed up, she left the door and had to go get a straw hat. When going out, I happened to meet Zhao Meiwan, who was about to enter the house. Zhao Meiwan was stunned when she saw Xinran wrapped in a scarf, her eyes fixed on her scarf and kettle, looking back and forth. As if he didn't know the person in front of him, he shouted, Xinran. Xinran smiled and responded, Sister Meiwan, I'll go out first. Oh, Zhao Meiwan replied in a daze. Her gaze followed Xinran's scarf as she walked all the way until she left the courtyard door. The male-educated youth standing in the courtyard couldn't help but take a few more glances at Xinran, who was wrapped in a scarf. Zhou Quan couldn't help but approach Chen Tianhua. Tianhua, what do you think of this group of female-educated youth? Chen Tianhua lowered his head and drank the water in his hand without saying a word. Zhou Quan continued to evaluate, if you ask me, it's still the beautiful educated youth named Zhou Xiaonan. That little white face, I still pity it when I see it. But I'm just a bit weak, I don't know how many points I can earn. Chen Tianhua suddenly looked up and said, you better look at yourself, how many centimeters can you earn? I was completely confused for a moment, but it took me a few seconds to react, hey, you're not talking about you, why are you still in a hurry? Chen Jianxi glanced coldly at everything on the side, carrying a brand new straw hat, and walked towards the dormitory of the female-educated youth. I looked at this and that inexplicably, then turned around and left. He should still earn his wages. Other things are too complicated. After Xinran left, he arrived at the empty space where he had gathered in the morning. The lady was holding a brand new straw hat in her hand and had already been waiting in place. Seeing Xinran coming over, the corner of the lady's mouth instantly burst into a smile. Oh, Xinran, you're here. Your scarf looks really nice. Auntie said she was about to touch, but Xinran quickly took a step back and called out with a smile, Auntie. Hey, the straw hat has brought it to you. As the lady spoke, she handed the straw hat to her. Xinran didn't talk nonsense either. He took the straw hat in one hand and handed the 10 cents he had prepared in advance to the lady in the other. When the lady saw the money, her face smiled like a flower. She knew that the new educated youth were wealthy, and it would be great if they could sell a few more straw hats. Auntie's eyes rolled, but she saw that 3 new female educated youth had arrived this time. 1 hair, 3 is 3 hair. She needs to find an opportunity to ask those 2 female educated youth. Wait for Xinran to come back to the field in the morning. She wore a brand new blue scarf around her head. She was also wearing a brand new straw hat and carrying a kettle on her shoulder. Some people who come to work are looking at her scarf, while others are looking at her kettle. In everyone's eyes, there is envy, and some people have a bit more regret in their eyes. If only my face were whiter, just like that female educated youth named Zhou Xiaonan. In that case, wearing such a scarf will definitely look good. Xinran felt like he had nothing to do, he should pull out the grass. She couldn't bask in herself and be thirsty for the attention of others. And she just took a glance, and all the educated youth were wearing straw hats. Zhou Xiaonan also wore a brand new straw hat. Only Wang Xiaoying wore nothing on her head. There are also people in the village who bring water, but none of them are. She is a military green kettle. So, she just stood out, a little bit, not too much. Xinran instantly convinced himself.